Want to listen to this Ivory Tower Boiler Room or True Crime in Academia episode ad-free? Head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room, to listen to all of our podcast episodes without any ads. You get access to our video episodes, our bonus episodes, and even more exclusive content, including merchandise. It only starts at $5 a month, so head on over to our Patreon. Again, it's patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room. And while you're at it, you know what would be such a help is if you could rate and review the Ivory Tower Boiler Room on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And make sure that you follow us and share out our podcast to all of your friends. It truly does help. And I want to thank you all. It means so much that you're listening to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. I hope that you enjoy this episode.
Hey, true crime friends. Welcome back to another episode of True Crime in Academia. I'm your host, Mary DiPipi. I hope you all had a wonderful week this week. I hope you are looking forward to an awesome weekend. I'm quite busy this weekend, which is so abnormal for me. Like, I just have so many things going on, like, this weekend and next week. Like, I'm excited for two of those things. The rest of them, I'm kind of just ready for them to be over. One of the things that I'm looking forward to is that I'm going to the Ren Fair with a couple of work friends. So I'm very excited about that. I have my costume ready to go. I am not, however, looking forward to waking up super early so that way we can get there when it opens. Just because the following day I'm also not going to get any sleep. I have a sister date with my sister, obviously. So, I mean, I'm glad, that we're doing it. Obviously, I do not regret any of these activities. I just am just such a tired person that I always look at the lack of sleep first. But, it's going to be totally worth it. I'm excited. I meant to record earlier today, and I apologize if you hear screaming children. There are small children in the household that my parents are watching, so I mean, you shouldn't be able to hear them. I'm hearing them, but just in case, I apologize. But anyway, my boyfriend and we went and saw a house today. That was really exciting. We're definitely not buying that house, but we're excited to just have, gone through and taking the next steps, to see properties and things like that. So, I think that's going to keep our motivation up. We definitely have a list of other houses we want to see. So, we'll see how long it takes, before we find the house. But, I'm excited that we're going through this process. And, hopefully we will get a new place soon. So I'm very excited about that. Not a new, I shouldn't even say a new place, our first place, So I'm excited about that. And yeah, I've also been watching What We Do in the Shadows. I just finished season 1. I really liked it. I'm in season 2, but unfortunately, given the circumstances for which I was watching it, I wasn't able to pay attention, so I have to go back and rewatch some episodes, but I'm still enjoying it so far. For those of you that don't know, it's basically Vampires meets The Office, and yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. It's fairly dark comedy, so, but like I said, it's pretty lighthearted and funny, but at the same time, they're also vampires making jokes about killing people, so you sometimes question your sense of humor. But it's a great show. Highly recommend. And yeah, that's really about it of what's going on in my life right now. So let's get into this news update. This first story is literally the strangest celebrity crime story I have come across so far, I think. I'm also, like, weirded out by the celebrity it involves. Cher, the amazing, ageless singer who herself is probably a vampire. Because, like I said, she literally does not age. She is being accused of hiring 4 men to kidnap her youngest son, Elijah Blue, back last November 2022. Now, according to Elijah's wife and, soon to be ex wife, actually, her name is Marie King. She's claiming that 4 men burst into their hotel room while they were there, basically trying to save their marriage. Now, some sources claim that this was around or on their anniversary. King came out recently alleging that the singer was responsible, stating that one of the kidnappers even said to her that her mother-in-law was the one who hired them. I thought that was a little strange, but then you never know. I wasn't trying to think too much into it. Not because I'm trying to side with Cher in this. I think that it 100% happened. I just think the intentions are different, which I will get into in just a second. Now, Elijah sadly struggled with drugs, like almost his entire life, unfortunately. And at the time of the alleged kidnapping, he was supposedly receiving treatment. Why, though, that he was out at a hotel with his wife for their supposed anniversary, I'm not sure. But according to court documents, there had been a postponement for a different date, and it was supposed to, that date was supposed to coincide with the end of his treatment, which would have been early this March. So, again, not exactly sure what type of treatment he was receiving or what type of facility he was in. Again, generally most rehab facilities, they don't let you go anywhere, but maybe this was different. I don't know. But anyway, it seems that he was out at some point during his treatment. Anyhow, King claims that her husband was taken to a facility, I guess a different one, and didn't have any phone access. So basically she's saying that he was taken away to a facility and she couldn't get in touch with him. Now, some people believe that if Cher did this, she did this because she was trying to get her son out of a toxic relationship, or at the very least, away from Marie King. Honestly, if this is true and Cher did hire these men to kidnap her son, obviously that is not acceptable. And even though I can understand a parent wanting to help, I guess, save their children, I feel like that's what she was feeling or thinking that she was doing. You want to do that, but at the same time, when your child's an adult, I feel like you kind of just have to... It sounds so harsh, but I feel like you have to let them do what it is that they want to or are going to do anyway, and to just kind of be there to pick up the pieces. Now, I'm not sure. It seemed like I said Elijah's drug issues came from earlier on. It seemed like they were happening before he met and married Marie King. However, I'm not sure if maybe she was a catalyst for his condition, or she maybe was a facilitator or an enabler, I should say, of his drug use. I really don't know. But, it's also possible that Cher just didn't like her and was just like, this, enough is enough. My son just needs to divorce you and get clean and call it a day. Either way, if that is the case, the latter, that's clearly, like I said, not okay. He's an adult. He should be able to handle his affairs as he sees fit. But, we will see what happens. As of this moment, Cher has not come out and responded to these accusations. But, maybe she will. We will find out. Hopefully, an almost 40-year-old cold case is about to be solved. It seems that recently there was finally a suspect arrested and put into custody. In February of 1987, a 6-year-old boy named Jeremy Stoner went missing from his grandparents' home in Vallejo, California. His body was discovered 4 days later on Sherman Island, and it was determined that he had been sexually assaulted and strangled. 69-year-old Fred Kane III was arrested at his home in Oregon on September 18th, 2023. DNA evidence linked him to the horrific crimes. Kane had been a suspect earlier on, but they believed that the crime was committed by a different suspect. The case for this other suspect did go to trial twice, but in both instances, the juries were never able to reach a verdict. And before they even could the second time, the suspect passed away. Now, this is not the first of criminal offenses against Kane, the person who is now a very credible suspect. His rap sheet includes charges of burglary, sodomy, and rape by threat, which is simply threatening someone with rape. Now, Kane was recently in court, but he is due back in sometime in October. I couldn't find an exact date, but it says that he is due for another hearing in October. It said that Kane is also suspected of the fatal stabbing of a 9-year-old boy named Eric Coy. Just so happens that this was also the same year that Jeremy was murdered and assaulted. Hopefully, it seems like this DNA test was strong, so hopefully it will hold up in court when this eventually goes to trial. And, hopefully that, these families find some justice after all of these years. I can't imagine having gone so long not knowing, but at least there is some sort of, or at least hopefully there will be some sort of end for them. This next story got me by the title, I have to admit. It did not go where I expected, but I still want to talk about it because it just feels like there's still a problem that's going on with this. So, over the past month, about 50 children have gone missing from the Cleveland, Archon, Ohio area. And those are just some of the more than 1,000 children that have gone missing from that area this year. Which, at first, I was like, holy shit, that's a high number. That seems extremely suspect. Like, there has to be some sort of sexual, child sex ring going on. It just seemed so drastic and so crazy to me. But according to the Cleveland police, they're saying that these numbers are misleading because some of these, or actually the majority of these cases, are considered to be habitual runaways. And they're claiming that out of all of those cases from this month, only 14 of them are considered to be endangered. Which, in some ways, I guess it makes you feel better, but also my brain just went to well, what the fuck? Why are all of these children running away? And from some of the information that I saw in the research that I did for this case, it seemed like a lot of these children are in the system. But also, again, that shouldn't be the main reason why this is happening. There has to me, there is something else going on. I'm not saying it's some conspiracy or anything, but there is a reason that children from the foster system seemingly, allegedly, en masse are running away from home. So what is going on with the foster system, allegedly, where these children are being placed in homes that they're consistently running away from? I'm not saying that in all of those cases they are, abusive situations. Some of them just may be strict, and these children might be fear of the level of control that the parents or foster parents are trying to exercise over them, even though it might be a safe level, the type of level that is, more protective than just controlling, Um, but, for the others, like, I don't know. Like, what is going on? Like, who are these people that you're placing them with that they have the need to run away? So, why is no one investigating that? That's what I want to know. Lastly, for the news update, we have a case update. If you go back in the episodes to episodes 24 and 25, I covered the Stanford murders. Now, just to refresh for some of you, John Gatrew, who worked as kind of like a custodian at Stanford University, was arrested for the murders and sexual assault of Leslie Petroff and Janet Taylor, who was the daughter of Chuck Taylor, the legendary Stanford football coach. Now, John Gatrew was finally caught in 2018 and sentenced to life in prison, but last week he died of natural causes, which... This is why the death penalty is so fucking complicated, at least for me anyway, because on one hand, I know that it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't change anything, and it's only causing more death, right? But also, in cases like this, like Leslie and Janet were in their early to mid-20s, and they didn't get to live out the rest of their natural lives because of this man, John Gatrew. And that's infuriating to think that he was given the luxury to die of natural causes, which, like I said, in and of itself just is the conundrum that is the death penalty, Like I said, it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't change anything. It's not going to bring anyone back. And I know that's a very harsh way of putting it, but it's, to quote Martin Luther King, violence only begets more violence. The only way to drive out violence is with love. So, I feel like it falls in with that. But, I mean, like I said, also, I'm conflicted because of situations like this. So, All right, I have a really interesting case for you guys this week. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to get into this week's case.
Hi, this is Dr. Andrew Rimby, and I'm so excited to shout out the Gay and Lesbian Review, who is helping to sponsor the ITBR podcast. For all of you out there, the Gay and Lesbian Review is a bi-monthly magazine where you can discover new things about gay and lesbian literature, history, and culture. And the GL Review publishes essays in a wide range of disciplines, as well as a slew of reviews of books, plays, and movies, and a number of special features, such as artist profiles and their popular art memo column. Each issue of the magazine brings you consistently intelligent, lively, thought-provoking articles focused on a unifying theme. For example, their September-October issue centers on the theme Cracking the Closet. So, starting in the 19th century, a number of artists and writers found ways to crack the closet by expressing their sexuality between the lines or in the interstices of their work. For example, Ignacio Darnad, who is a friend of the ITBR podcast, he's been on our show, writes all about illustrator J.C. Leyendecker, whose work for Ivory Soap and Arrow Collars gave him plenty of opportunities to draw pictures of well-dressed and at times scantily dressed American men. And you also can find an article by Vernon Rosario, who has been on the podcast, and he talks about the quest for sex in the Middle Ages. So, to subscribe, visit glreview.org. That's glreview.org. Click subscribe. So on their website, go all the way over to the right-hand side and you'll see the button subscribe. Click subscribe and enter the promo code ITBR50 because you're getting 50% off your subscription to the print or digital edition of the Gay and Lesbian Review magazine. I can't wait for you all to have your copy of the Gay and Lesbian Review magazine, and make sure that you take a picture when your magazine arrives or when you're reading it online and tag the GL Review on Instagram and ITBR, and we'll share it out in our stories. Enjoy your reading, everyone. Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Andrew Rimby, and I am so excited to be talking about Broadview Press. You might be asking, what is Broadview Press, Andrew? Broadview is an independent academic publisher in the humanities that produces high quality, pedagogically useful books for use in university and college classrooms. They publish in the humanities, mainly English studies, writing, philosophy, and history, just to name a few genres. And recently, I had on Dr. Jason Holt, who wrote all about the philosophy of sport. And what better summer episode than to talk about what happens when a philosopher dissects the beautiful aesthetics of sporting culture? In the spring, I had on doctors Kyle Stedman and Tanya Rodriguez to talk about what is sound writing, how to make audio projects in the college classroom, how to even have your students create podcasts. And then in the winter, I had on Dr. Jeffrey Weinstock. He talked about analyzing pop culture. Yes, I even sneak in some Real Housewives questions and how to teach composition and make it fun. He uses this whole metaphor about being a mad scientist in this gothic lab. And in the fall, I had on Dr. Ann Stevens, and she talked about literary theory and criticism. And yes, the university season is upon us. So, what better way to talk about the college classroom than to actually understand what is literary theory? That's a wonderful episode for all of you out there who teach literary studies. I love Broadview Press. Make sure you use their exclusive code. It's Ivory Tower on broadviewpress.com. You get 20% off all Broadview Press publications. Okay, until the next Broadview Press interview. And now back to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. Hi, everyone. This is Andrew, and I am interrupting what I know is such an exciting Ivory Tower Boiler Room episode to tell you all about one of my favorite podcasts. It's called That Old Gay Classic Cinema, and it's hosted by Christian Garcia. Christian is joined with guest co hosts to talk about classic cinema films that we know and love, and he analyzes them through a queer lens. So he's talked about The Sound of Music, Alfred Hitchcock, The Wizard of Oz, Sleeping Beauty, 101 Dalmatians, and recently, Hello, Dolly. I actually was on his first ever episode to talk about my love of The Sound of Music and playing Captain Von Trapp in my high school musical. Then I was joined with Mary DiPipi, the host of True Crime in Academia, and our friend Travis Roundtree to talk about Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo. Mary just had Christian on True Crime in Academia to talk about female poisoners, including the evil queen from Snow White and actual real life female poisoners. So, Christian's podcast is the best. You must add it to your listen list. After you listen to this episode, make sure you head over to That Old Gay Classic Cinema on Apple and Spotify. Make sure you follow him on Instagram at That Old Gay Classic Cinema. And he's also on TikTok. Don't forget TikTok. Okay, I can't wait for you all to listen to That Old Gay Classic Cinema. And now back to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room.
On September 18th, 1952, 22-year-old Betty Shanks was headed home from a lecture that she attended at State Commercial High School. This night was normal by all means for Betty. After her lecture, she walked home and departed the tram on a stop near her home in Grange, Queensland, Australia. This was around 9:32 p.m. That would be the last time anyone would see her alive again. Betty Thompson Shanks was born on October 10th, 1929, in Wilston, Queensland, Australia, to Mr. and Mrs. David Shanks. Now, I couldn't find much about her early life, like as far as her siblings and her home life, but it seems like she came from a loving and caring family, at least as far as her parents are concerned. Because again, I have no idea if she has siblings. From what was said about her and from what we know about her, it seems that she was a very kind and smart person. She graduated from the University of Queensland and worked as a civil servant in the Department of Interior. Now, the Department of Interior in Australia existed from 1932 to 1972, and it was responsible for child welfare. So basically, Betty worked in social services as a social worker, which, I mean, to me, that just seemed to be the most equivalent of what this job was based off of everything that I saw, which is a very admirable pursuit. You know, I don't know if the classes or the lectures that she was attending coincide with that career or if she was trying to transition into a new one. You know, all we know is that she was working basically, like I said, as a social worker, as a civil servant in the Department of Interior, and still taking classes. But, you know, based off of the job itself, you know, clearly she's working with children in very difficult situations. And like social work, you know, that's an extremely difficult job. Not only just the paperwork or the amount of paperwork, you know, combined with the mental and physical aspect of it. I mean, you know, I can't even imagine. That night on September 18th, the tram had dropped Betty off at the Days Road tram's terminus. And like I said, that was the last known sighting of her around 9:30. I tried to find out if someone like specifically saw her leaving there or, you know, what exactly was in the police report, but I couldn't find anything. I mean, it's from 1952, so it's hard to know if that was really even the case, but in some ways I kind of feel like it is, which we'll get into in just a second. Now, this is one of the reasons why I think she had a more loving household, because it was stated that her father, David, had waited up for her, but by 1:30 in the morning, he knew something was seriously wrong and phoned the police to report Betty missing. Just before 6 a.m. on September 19th, so literally within hours of Mr. Shanks calling in Betty's disappearance, a neighbor went outside to grab the newspaper when he noticed a young woman's body lying on the ground on another neighbor's lawn. He, of course, was, you know, thankfully very level-headed and went in and called the authorities. Now, the location of the body is sort of significant because she was found 500 feet from the terminus from where she was last seen. So again, this proves that there was a very short window, sadly, you know, from the time that she got off of the tram and was walking home to when she was attacked and murdered. According to some sources, Betty was found wearing her gold watch, which had been stopped at 9:53 p.m., which was 21 minutes after, like I said, she was last seen. A few of the neighbors also told authorities that they had heard screams around 10 p.m. that night, but most of them had pretty much assumed that it was due to some of the local teenagers just getting rowdy. Sadly, you know, again, if this timeline is to be believed, which all the evidence points to that it is, it was most likely Betty. Hey, Ivory Tower Boiler Room listeners and true crime friends. You've heard me gush over this incredible woman and her beautiful products. I'm talking about Mandy Made It. Mandy makes customized and original crochet and pre-cut goods. They are the perfect, unique, one-of-a-kind gift for literally anyone in your life. And she makes incredible home decor. I still have my pumpkins that I put out every fall. I just love them. check her out on Instagram at MANDEE Made It, or search Mandy Made It on Facebook. To order, just slide into her DMs, and if you mention the Ivory Tower Boiler Room, you will receive a free personalized gift with your first order. So, go on Instagram and look up at Mandy Made It, and Mandy is spelled MANDEE. Again, her handle is at Mandy Made It, Mandy spelled MANDEE, and order today.
LGBT stories are universal, but each one speaks to the individual heart and soul of the writer telling it. Do you have a story to tell? Or have you been moved by an LGBT book, film, painting, television show, or other form of media? Then the Gay and Lesbian Review wants to hear from you. The GNLR believes in bringing awareness to queer art and artists through reviews, commentary, and thought pieces in which the author relates their personal lives to a particular piece of art, a novel, a movie. In addition to the print magazine, the GNLR also publishes articles on its blog. So you can see all of this on glreview.org. That's glreview.org. Remember, you get 50% off your subscription of the GL Review magazine when you use the promo code ITBR50. That's 50% off your print or digital subscription when you use promo code ITBR50. To learn more about submitting an article for the GNLR, visit their writer's guidelines. The link is located at the bottom of their homepage. And if you have any questions, email Stephen Hemrick. That's STEPHEN dot HEMRICK at glreview.org. The GNLR and its readers can't wait to see what you have to say.
When police arrived, they noted Betty's gruesome condition. Now, for those of you who are, triggered by certain things, you might want to skip this part. So, this would be the time to do it, like right now. Betty was found beaten badly, so much so that some of her teeth were scattered on the ground around her. Her face and other parts of her body had obvious boot marks on her, and they were in a black polish. It had been speculated by a lot of people that she was also kicked. Her bra straps had been broken, and her underwear had been removed, but by some sort of miracle, she hadn't been sexually assaulted. However, though, we need to remember that this is the 50s, so there is the room for the possibility that they were wrong. Obviously, I hope they were not. Obviously, though, do I wish that she wasn't murdered at all in the first place? But, given the fact that that is something I can't change that had happened, I just hope that she wasn't further violated. Now, for any of you who needed to go away, you can come back now. You can rejoin. So, bloody handprints were found on the fence nearby where Betty's body was found, but sadly, it never amounted to anything. Her family and friends stated that at the time, she didn't have any enemies and she hadn't dated anyone for a year. So, to this day, Betty's murder remains unsolved. But there have been a few theories, which we're going to get into. The first theory is that a well-known doctor killed her. 3 days after Betty's murder, a doctor named Donald Carter died by suicide. And this sparked rumors of a potential connection and murder-suicide situation. However, this theory was quickly dismissed because those who were close to Dr. Carter said that he had become devastated over the loss of a patient. He was going through some severe financial woes and just was overworked, and it seemed like he was extremely depressed. And that was what led to his suicide. Not because he was burying the weight of insurmountable guilt from taking the life of another human being. His DNA was provided via his son's samples, meaning they were able to get like a genealogical, connection to figure that out. So that eliminated him ultimately as a suspect. Another theory was that Betty was targeted for money. It was said that Betty had entered the Golden Casket lottery and had won at the time what was 3,000 Australian pounds. In today's money, that is roughly $250,000. So, not just any small chunk of change. Like, that could literally, honestly, how sad is this? This could literally pay, that amount of money could literally pay off all of my debt, and then I'd have maybe a little bit left over for myself. Like, that's all. I would just need a small loan of $250,000 that I don't have to pay back, essentially. I mean, not entirely, but, like, that money could do some things for me, and then some, is what I'm getting at here. Now, it was said that coworkers observed Betty visibly distressed after getting off of a phone call that day. And a well-known book on this case called I Know Who Killed Betty Shanks by Ted Duhs, D-U-H-S. Duhs is the only way I can think of how to pronounce that. But anyway, he wrote this book, and he said that he was a taxi driver at the time of Betty's murder. And he came forward claiming that he picked up a man around a mile from the crime scene around like 10:40 p.m. And the guy that he picked up wore a shirt that had blood on it. And a lot of people believe that this man was essentially the person who they think killed her for this money. Now, this man was identified. His name was never given. He was never identified to the public, but he did come forward and was questioned by police, but it seemed like there wasn't enough evidence against him to pursue anything. So, again, a dead end. This last theory comes from a woman named Deshae Brittles. I think that's how you pronounce her first name. I'm not sure. But anyway, she is claiming that her ex-soldier turned locksmith father was Betty Shanks' murderer. She said that she had witnessed her father burning clothes the night that Betty was murdered. Now, she went to authorities but was never taken seriously. And she claims that her father physically and sexually abused her as a child and remembers him specifically telling her to clean a pair of his leather boots from, again, the night that Betty was murdered, that were stained with blood and tissue. She said that her father also said to her not to say anything, quote, or you'll end up like Betty Shanks, end quote. At the time of Shanks' death, Brittles was about 8 years old. I'm not sure exactly, when she went to talk to the police about her father and everything, but when she did, they told her that she shouldn't say those things because they were friends with her father. Like, he worked in tandem with the police whenever they needed to get in somewhere. Now, it was also stated that a psychiatric report stated that Mr. Brittles, quote, had the potential to be psychotic, end quote, which a lot of people feel would explain the violent nature of Betty's death. However, Mr. Brittles died before the claims from Deshae even came to light. I think personally, because again, she worked in child welfare / child services. I feel like if maybe Deshae and her father were a case of hers, then we could find motive for this. But I don't know how well all of these things were documented at the time, just because they had such limited technology, you know? So, again, it is very, I feel like this theory is the most plausible given all of the information about Betty that we have to begin with. It would also explain the violence, and potentially the lack of maybe sexual violence. I hate to admit, but sometimes I like to get into the minds of these people, and I just feel like if Mr. Brittles, was the one committing this crime, I feel like, and again, this is only if she was like the social worker on the case and was basically probably essentially threatening. I'm sorry, I just said the same word like in 3 different ways. But that, she was threatening or could have been threatening with taking the child away, which then he wouldn't have someone to physically and sexually abuse. And it could also be possible that she wasn't sexually assaulted, but that could have been a fear tactic, if you will, because I feel so disgusting saying this, but like that she's too old for him. Yeah. Like I said, I feel so gross right now. I need to take a shower. But like that's the only way that I feel like this works. And like I said, this theory just seems the most plausible to me. But sadly, I don't think poor Betty Shanks is going to get justice. I mean, I hate that. I mean, I would hope, like with the other cases from the Stanford murders, like I would hope that maybe they could do some work with DNA and hopefully try to close it, but who knows. But unfortunately, like I said, poor Betty, her case was never solved, but it doesn't mean that her life mattered any less or that her case matters any less. So that is all I have for you this week, my loves. I hope you all enjoy your weekend. Don't forget to follow True Crime in Academia on social media at True Crime in Academia on Instagram and TikTok, and at TC in Academia on X/Twitter. Also, if you would like to join the True Crime in Academia book club or listen to this or any other of the episodes ad-free and get access to the bonus episodes, go to patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room and become a subscriber today. And until next time, my loves, I will see you all later.
Hi, this is Dr. Andrew Rimby. I want to thank you so much for listening to the ITBR and TCIA episodes. Make sure, if you don't, follow, rate, and review us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Also, make sure you follow ITBR on TikTok and Instagram at Ivory Tower Boiler Room, and TCIA on TikTok and Instagram at True Crime in Academia. Also, we have a brand new Patreon membership system. So I just want to explain it to you all quickly. So if you want to become an ITBR student, it is $5 a month. You get ad-free ITBR and TCIA episodes and video interviews. If you want to become an ITBR professor for $10 a month, you get all of those ad-free benefits, but you also get access to both the ITBR and TCIA book clubs. You can join both book clubs, get ad-free episodes, plus you're going to get all of our extra video episodes. So I am rewatching Queer as Folk. Christian Garcia from That Old Gay Classic Cinema is joining us, and he's rewatching Smash. Mary is going to start to rewatch shows as well. You even get access to what I'm calling the ITBR Teaches. So if I'm recapping a movie or a TV show, including Barbie, Halloween movies and horror films, you get access to that as well. And then I also am offering consultation services. So for $30, you get your first initial consultation with me. It's a 1-hour private Zoom. I will help create your podcast, your media brand. How do you navigate academia as an undergrad or a grad student? Do you need help with technology? It could be teaching tools, Spotify for podcasters, video editor software? Do you want to expand your social media presence as an artist, writer, podcaster, or academic? Do you want help on how to create a public humanities identity like I've created for myself? So I'm offering that consultation service. You can find more info about it on Patreon. And you also can join our book clubs. If you want to just join the ITBR book club or the TCIA book club, you can do that for $4 a month. Patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room. That is patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room. Thanks to the team, Mary DiPipi, our chief contributor, and thank you to our 2 new interns from Stony Brook University, Jonathan and Sara. Bye, everyone. Until next time.